Hey everyone, welcome to another art journaling process video. I'm Jenny and today I am starting off with this stencil from Prima called Sharon, and I'm going to use this as my image in my journal today. So I'm just laying that down and I get some black acrylic paint and I'm just going to put a little bit on to the side on my craft mat there. And I'm starting off with a little bit of a cotton ball and just seeing whether that works. And I put a little bit down and place it on, have a bit of a peek to see how it's turning out on my page, and I didn't really like the look of it. Actually, I probably didn't even peek underneath. I could just tell that the cotton ball was soaking up too much paint and I was having to press really hard to get a little bit of coverage. So I swapped it out just for a makeup sponge, and I'm just going around the stencil, just holding it still with my hand and adding some black paint. And the good thing about the stencils with the acrylic paint is that once the acrylic paint has dried, I can add wet medium over the top and the paint is not going to smudge. So as long as I've dried up the paint and I'm not putting oodles of water, everything holds their own and it works out really well. So this stencil is absolutely gorgeous. So if you are like me and aren't great at drawing faces or drawing anything, which I'm not a drawer, you can use these stencils and voila, look at that. So beautiful crisp image. I was really happy with the way that it turned out. Really loved the picture. So in my journal it looks like I'm just a great artist, but it was all the stencil. So just laying it there, cleaning it off with a wet wipe because the paint's wet, it comes off relatively quickly. Just have to be careful when you wipe it with the wipes that you don't snag the intricate tiny little pieces of the stencil and pull them up, which I think I did a couple of times. So it's all cleaned off now and ready to go. So like I said, this is a beautiful crisp image, and I didn't gesso the page that I'm working on. I just left it as is. So I'm going, there you go. See, I just touched a little bit with a water brush and I'm seeing whether it smudges, and it doesn't. So I didn't even hit it with a heat gun. It was pretty much dry and I was ready to go. So I'm just using some watercolors. So I didn't add any gesso or anything to the page. I'm just using the these are watercolors from Prima, and I think the color collection is called Scenic Route. And it's got some beautiful flesh tone colors as well as some aqua colors in there as well. So it's a really nice little collection. And I also bring in my Caran d'Ache Neo Color 2 water soluble crayons later on and add a little bit of color in with that as well. So the technique I'm doing here right now is I squeeze the barrel of this water brush so that I have quite a bit of water on my tip of my brush, and then I'm actually just touching it straight to the pencil. So I'm actually just pulling the color off from the pencil, getting it onto the water brush and putting it onto the page like that, rather than actually taking the water colored pencil and colouring into the page, then adding the water. So this just adds a really fun little technique because I can get a lot of colour to start with and then squeeze the barrel of the paintbrush and really water down the colour so that it looks like I'm using more than one colour to the page. So that's a lot of fun. I had lots of fun playing with these pencils. They are really beautiful to use. They are very similar to an expensive brand, and I can't find them or think of even what they're called at the moment. My daughter has been in here and stolen my pencils, I have just discovered, so they're not there, so I can't tell you what they are. But anyway, they're beautiful. They're creamy. They've got lots of colour in them, lots of pigmentation, so the colour stays, bright. It doesn't get watered down with the colour doesn't water down when you're using the water. They really stay beautiful and true. So here I am with the crayons doing the same sort of thing, adding the brush to the actual tip of the crayon and picking up the colour there and adding some pink to the page. So the Prima set didn't have a pink in it, but there is a bright collection as well. I think there's about 4 or 5 maybe different colours that Prima have come out with in a 12-piece set. So, you know, if you like the pink, it might be in the brights collection. So, but I've got the crayons, and so they are doing, you know, what I want them to do. So now I'm just doing the hair, and like I have said in one of my previous videos, I'm not sure exactly where all the shading goes into. So for me, I don't know a lot of the technical sides of things. I just do what I want to do, and I'm happy with that. So I'm just adding some darker areas and some lighter areas, and then I bring in some different colours, different shades of brown as well, and add that to the page, and just to give her, you know, a look of flowing and moving hair with light catching in certain spots. And yeah, so that's all I'm, you know, doing at the moment, is just colouring in, seeing where I want to add some colour, and, you know, just having fun playing. So, you know, I don't know how many of you ladies or gentlemen used to love colouring when you're little, but I loved colouring in with colouring books, and just like I said, I wasn't a very good drawer, but I love to colour in. So this is a fun way to relive a little bit of your childhood and just relax. It's very relaxing, pulling out your coloured pencils or your coloured crayons and, you know, just playing. So I think all up this took me about an hour and a half to complete from start to finish. So that was a nice, you know, little bit of time spent in my craft room, and just relaxing and enjoyable. So I'm just doing some colouring to the face now, and like I said, this tin had a lot of beautiful skin tone colours which were really nice. So some really light browns, and then, you know, a little bit darker, so more of a flesh tones for, you know, wider people. Not lots of dark skin tone colours, but for lighter skin shades. This one worked really well, and not exactly, like I said, not exactly sure where all the shading should be, but, you know, I'm just putting it where I would like it and where I think that it would go, and I'm happy if it's not in exactly the right place. You know, just playing around, building up some intensity of colour and adding some, you know, shades of light and dark, and working with that. So it's been fun playing in my art journal, and just doing 1 page a week, although I missed last week because, you know, we've had sickness in the family. So today we've got a public holiday where I live, and so I've had a day off work. So it's a good time to catch up on all my process videos that have been waiting for me to do, and, you know, get stuck into a little bit of art journaling and a little bit of scrapbooking and a little bit of fun. So just making the roots a bit darker, adding some darkness with the pencils. And there's not much else to tell you about this. I'm nearly finished, and then I think I start to move on to the background, which I think can give you some more information. But, you know, for now, it's pretty much, it is what it is. Not doing much that you can't see. Adding some colour here and there. So is anyone playing along with me? Have you pulled out your art journal and been inspired just to paint something or draw something, or just to put some layers of colour down? I think sometimes the blank pages of an art journal can be intimidating for people. They're not sure exactly where to start, and, you know, the starting point is the most intimidating. So my suggestion would be just open it up and start with something. Perhaps buy one of these Prima stencils, and you know, just use your acrylic black paint and you know, put it down on the page and start colouring. And once you've got it there, you know, it just makes a beautiful page. Okay, so moving along, I have pulled out some stamps. Most of these stamps are stamps that I've had in my stash for years. They're Kaisercraft background stamps, and in Australia I think they're only about $3 or $4 or something like that. And you know, they released a whole heap of them and continue to do so, I think, each month. So there are lots of different stamps. So I'm just varying what I'm stamping here. I've got a wood grain stamp and a floral stamp. I've got a weathered wood fence sort of stamp, and so I'm just putting lots of different textures on the background, lots of different visual textures. And so now I'm wanting to add some color with these Bombay India inks, and I squirted my page first, but the page just soaked in the water. It was like I squirted it and 2 seconds later it was dry. So all I've done is, you can see me at the top of the screen, but you can't quite see what I'm doing sometimes. But all I'm doing is I'm putting my brush into the little container of India ink and then laying a little bit on the mat, and I'm squirting that with water. So I'm actually just watering the ink down a little bit so that I don't get a really dark amount of ink onto the page. I just want it to be, you know, sort of a subtle look, and so I'm just watering it down and doing it that way. And so I'm not concerned about filling in at this stage the whole page, because I know that I actually want to use lots of different colors, and so I'm just adding it where, you know, I think that it needs it. Bringing in some yellow, bringing in some blue, and I think I bring in a little bit of pink as well. And it does look, once it's dried, it actually goes lighter in colour as well. So just laying down, like I said, a foundation of colour. I think I've just run away to get another colour. So everything in my room, I've got a smallish room, and you know, it's like one step to the cupboards. So just standing up and grabbing some different colour. So this one's a bit more of a pink, and like I said, once it's dried, it actually dries a little bit lighter than it is as well. So just bringing a little bit of pink onto the page. So I'm just bringing the colours that I've put into the butterflies and just continuing that around the layout. And these India inks are really good because they are permanent. So once they're down and they dry, I can add other colours on top of them, and they aren't going to move, which is not like a lot of the mists. Once the colour is down and you add water, they will move. But this India ink doesn't. It just stays still and stays where you want to put it. And you know, you can see through it, which is really good. So you know, I can add colour on top of the stamping, as you can see me doing there, and you can still see the stamping. It doesn't cover over at all. So it's a good art medium to use for you know, at the end of a page when you want to add a little bit more colour. So if I was to add paint or anything at this stage, it would cover completely my stamping. So you can see that I've hit it with a heat gun and it's lightened up in colour a little bit. So I've just pulled out a stencil, and I'm trying to use a distress stain that was an antique linen or something, but I couldn't even see it. So I laid it down, couldn't see it, and so I decided that I would use a white ink pad instead. So just changing over the little daub a bit and adding that through the stencil and bringing a little bit of white onto the page on the left hand side and to the right. So just adding some white element, and it kind of all blends in together, and you can't really see it on the page in the end, but just adds a little something different. And oh, there you go, just pressing the excess ink that's on my little dauber there onto another page, and that's a page that will be ready to use for something else. So what am I doing? Getting a little bit of ink around the edges. So I've got a Tim Holtz mini ink pad there, and I'm just using, I think it's peacock feathers, and just taking that around the edge of the page to give it a little bit of a border. And I'm just trying to decide what else I'm going to add to it. It looks a little bit blank, so I'm thinking that I would like to do some stamping. I don't really want to journal on it, and I've got no stickers that I want to add, so I just have this stamp that's also a Kaiser Craft stamp, and it says live, laugh, love, so I'm just stamping that down. And I had a piece of packaging that I got in something, I can't even remember, but I just put that underneath the page to give it a little bit more stability, and so that I can get a clean image. And I go for hello, and I just put it on top of that butterfly there on the right hand side. I think I put it on, and I'm not sure what I did then. Put it on, wiped it off, and started again. So there you go, beautiful. So it came out nice and bold and crisp. So I really, liked that stamp set. I think it was from the Shine Bright collection, but could be wrong there on that one, not exactly sure. So then I've got these little stencils from Heidi Swap, and I'm going to add a little bit of colour through those, so just choosing what patterns I want. So I've gone for the circles and the triangles, and I've grabbed some gelatos in similar colours, and all I'm doing is rubbing my finger on the gelato and getting a little bit of colour onto my finger, and then hitting it with a wet brush, and it just helps it to blend a little bit more. So the gelatos are beautiful because they're smooth and creamy, and it has been warm here, so they're hard, but I can rub my finger into them and pull up a little bit of colour. And so I'm just adding that to different areas of the page, going back in if I don't think that I've got enough colour. So I think I decided that I wouldn't hit them with the water gun and just keep them the full colour. And now just going in with the circle as well, and I'm actually taking the circle elements over the triangle elements as well, so that they all just sort of blend in together, and you would look at the page and you wouldn't be able to figure out what I actually did first and what I did last. It all just blends in together seamlessly, or so it should, so that you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell if I did the circles first, the colour first, did I do the stamping last. It just all blends in to make one beautiful page. And those little stencils, the mini stencils, are the perfect size for, art journaling and scrapbooking, because, you don't need a whole 6x6 or a 12x12 stencil just to, use a tiny little bit of it. So I love those tiny mini stencils because you can get more patterns. And I think there's about 5 little stencils in a packet, so they work out to be quite cost effective. So I just used a yellow gelato there through the stencil, but I didn't like that, so I actually just wiped it off with my hand and got rid of it. So just adding a little bit more yellow to the page, and with that triangle stencil, I'm looking at it thinking, okay, what else do I need? It's looking a little bit blank because I do like to have my pages full. I do like everything to be I don't like much white space, I guess. So I decided that it needs a little bit more stamping. So I've just grabbed this music note stamp from Kaiser Craft as well, and I'm going to go around the border of the page with this stamp and add a little bit more to the center of the page as well, and then I'm pretty much done. That's going to call it a day. Call it a day for me, I think. This was made quite a few weeks ago, so not exactly sure, but I think that I'm pretty much at the end, and that is it. So then I will have some close-ups for you to see, give you a little bit more detail. There you go, so you can see the painting on the face, some more of the background detail, and a little bit of the different textures that I went for, a bit of the stenciling, and there's some more close-ups for the face and the butterflies. So thank you for joining me today. I hope this has inspired you to pull out your art journal and to do a beautiful page, and to pull out your stencils and just have fun. I will see you next time. Bye.